What is a prologue and what does it even do? So in today's episode, we're going to cover a few parts. We're going to talk about what is a prologue, examples of prologues, and alternative to prologues. Do you even need one? Is there another way you could present that information? And finally, I'm going to do a quick reading. My prologue's not that long. A quick reading of my story. So this is exciting. Hey there everybody, welcome to another episode of The Other Epic Story. This is the show where I talk myself through writing this epic three-part dystopian fantasy that I'm working on. So what is a prologue? Well, a prologue is additional information you want your audience to have, but it doesn't really fit into the actual plot of the story. And generally it's told in a different perspective. Take for example Game of Thrones or the Song of Ice and Fire series. All of them have prologues, and each of those prologues give a little detail about the situation of Westeros, but it isn't told from one of the George R.R. Martin's POV characters. Take for example The Lord of the Rings. The story is about the hobbits going to Mordor to destroy the rings, but you need that little bit of information about the ring first. All the war that happened, how it was forged, that is a prologue. Take Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, for example, Sorcerer's Stone. The first chapter is about Harry being delivered to the Dursleys by Hagrid, Dumbledore, and McGonagall. That is unlike all the other chapters to follow, where it's from Harry Potter's perspective, and you sort of see and feel things from Harry, whereas the prologue was from an omniscient, overlooking perspective. So that is how a prologue is usually presented. It's usually from a different time and presented in a different perspective than what the actual plot, chapter 1 to chapter however many, is told. Now that we know what prologues are and how they are used, we gotta ask this question. Is it necessary for my novel? That's a tough one to answer because I don't know your novel. I know mine. I know that I'm writing a sci-fi/fantasy dystopian novel, and when you're writing something like that, it always helps to have that extra bit of information. Think about Star Wars, for example, and that opening intro. It doesn't really add a lot to the actual story of the plot, but it helps sets the scene. Could they have done without it? Absolutely. But I think it adds that little bit that is iconic. So if you're writing a prologue, it needs to be a little bit special as well. So if you want to use a prologue, make sure it's necessary and it connects to the rest of the storyline going forward, or it really does set the scene for the story you're about to tell. Alternatively, you don't need a prologue. Just allow that information you would have had in the prologue to come out naturally in the story. Like have a character talk about it, have them visit the setting where the historical thing happened. You don't necessarily need a prologue. So that is what prologues are, that is how you use it, and that is how you make the decision to or to not use it. In my novel, I decided to write a prologue. Very short, it's 3 paragraphs long. I feel like if I wanted to, I could pull this information and I could dump it into the rest of the book. Odds are, I might even have repeated this information in the novel, so it might not be necessary as we discover. But today, we'll read it and we'll see how we feel afterwards. Probably awful. I'll set the scene for you. The last message sent digitally was to let everyone beyond the border know that there was still hope. The slicing of the cyber thread caused all historical records to vanish. Everything men once knew was forgotten, buried by the erosion of time. Nature hid humanity's errors. Towers that once pierced the sky were now rubbles and broken stones. Sprouting forests healed lands that have been scarred by highway concrete. Dams broken, bridge collapsed, and everything else that men had made was surmounted by earth, until all remnants of prior existence were lost. Millenniums passed, and there, living without knowledge, upon the land their ancestors have forfeited, were new civilizations. Townships, unions, and districts built so far apart that societies were forced into isolation. Those that lived were simple folks, concerned only with the matters of survival. Yet life was still hidden in a shroud of darkness and mystery. But those who did not understand did not complain. However, those that did could only stand terrified as they faced the uncertainty. So yeah, that is my prologue. I think I'm trying to do a few things here. I'm both trying to set the mood of the story, this dark, mysterious mood, and I'm also trying to introduce the setting, this new world, this new dystopian world, and what our characters are going to be living through. I do a lot of telling and not showing. There's nothing really to sink your teeth in. It's just all exposition. Perhaps this information can be snuck into the actual novel itself as opposed to being a standalone prologue. I think that might be what I would do, unless I want to turn this prologue into more of a story within itself, sort of the way Harry Potter's prologue was, or Song of Ice and Fire prologue. I could have it be about a character from the past going through those last days before technology fell. I think that would be an awesome way to introduce the story, but that will require not just rewriting, it's just writing completely this whole new side of the story, and I think it would be worth doing. I think that would be a way to connect it. Either way, I think we did a lot of good stuff today. I'm going to leave you on that note. Please like and subscribe if you like what I'm doing here. Leave a comment. I love to hear your thoughts on my passage that I just read, how you think I can improve it, if that is even possible. And I'll talk to you next time. Take care. Keep writing.